so ours it is to give the guidance.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyana Habib Ilahi Rabbil Alameen Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin al-mazlumin wa la'anatu ad-da'ima ala adaihim ajma'in min alan ila qiyami yawmiddin. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Question Time. We've been continuously emphasizing and looking at the Islamic family law in this program because there are a lot of questions being raised in regards to the family law in Islam, and there is a very need of such discussion in our TV programs to inform our viewers, to inform others about the technicality, about the subtle nature of the Islamic family law. Furthermore, this discussion could also be a source for the criticism that is raised against the Sharia law in England. And as a matter of fact, I really wonder that why this understanding exists among the intellectuals, among those who are in the higher posts in the government and educated people, that they think that Sharia law is detrimental to the Britain, to the English society, to the British society. As a matter of fact, I personally understand and guarantees that being someone who have studied in depth family law and know the technicalities of it, would definitely say that it will marvelously benefit the Western communities, the British community, the Western law, even that if there be a department, if there be a promotion of Sharia law, many of the issues and problems that we are facing would be resolved. The point is that Amir al-Mu'mineen have mentioned beautifully in hadith that a human being is the enemy of his ignorance. A human being is enemy of his ignorance because he is ignorant, and because of which he becomes enemy of something. He doesn't know something and he's unaware of that, and that's what makes it him to be against that principle or against that sort of reality or the phenomena that he is facing with. But if he has knowledge of that thing, then he will not be afraid of it, he will not be scared of it, he will not be against it, but rather he will engage, but rather he will try to enhance and develop it and provide it with more sort of insight to that particular thing. And this thing have been over and over again thrown to us in many sort of movies and television dramas or cartoons, that when there is an alien, when there is a foreign sort of animal that a human being is scared of it, he tries to relate to that animal or to that alien or to that new species that have come about, and gradually try to make oneself educate and connect to that, in order that one is protected from his shar, from his sort of attack, and this attack is not because of that he is evil or she is evil or that species is evil, right, or this knowledge is evil, but rather this attack is in order to protect itself. Nobody sort of initiate an attack unless or until one is afraid of something, right? So a human being is afraid, an enemy of his ignorance, of what he does not know. So if he make it a point that if he make himself knowledgeable of of Sharia law, if you are, as we are talking about in particular case, then he will never be afraid of that. There will be some sort of radicalization. Why do we have Sharia law? What is Sharia law? It means that you have to, I don't know, stone people to death and things like that. No, not at all. Because these people or these intellectuals or these lawyers or these MPs or ministers who are in the government level, they are completely unaware, they are completely ignorant of the fact that how wonderful this Sharia law would be, as a matter of fact. Now, that our discussion is not political discussion, whether they be Sharia law, whether they be not, and to push the agenda, what not. But our discussion is to educate our community, educate our viewers in regards to the intricacies, in regards to the the subtle nature of this Islamic family law, how beautiful it is, and how it will enhance and how it will provide freedom to Muslims, and how I would say that it will liberate women. It will liberate women by the implementation of the Sharia law, by putting to practice the Islamic family law. Because if you look at it, I remember when I was teaching family law in the college here in England, Islamic College of England, I did a research upon the Islamic law in Muslim countries, right? The Horn of Africa, Far East Asia, Middle East, Northern Africa, Western Africa, where they are known to be Islamic countries, like Sudan, like Algeria, like, for example, in terms of Afghanistan, Malaysia and Indonesia. How much of the Islamic law is implemented in these Islamic countries, right? And interestingly, I found out that many of the laws that are implemented in underdeveloped countries, they are laws which are based upon tribal and cultural principles, and they are so strong in their given tribes or in their given areas that they have to include this into the legal system. Now, once it has been introduced in the legal system, those people who are brought up there, those people who are living there, they automatically understand that these principles or these cultural values or laws of the tribes are considered as Islamic, and they implement that to the bottom line. I mean, they implement that life and death. They will not go against it, and they will regard this as something that is divine. Maybe there could be some sort of law within Afghanistan, in that village or in that area, that in that locality that they have, and there is one educated person who is the mullah or who is the qazi or whatever to a certain extent, and he is implementing that, and when he is implementing it, have no basis at all in the Quran and in the Hadith, but it's been considered as an Islamic law, right? So the problem occurs there. You see, we tend to regard some of the cultural values, cultural principles, tribal values, tribal understanding of certain realities to be Islamic, because Islam is predominant in that zone, in that country, and we think that to be Islamic. And now, for example, same applies for those who are educated, like as we were talking about the Sharia law, and they think that, okay, you want to have a Sharia law in the West, then that means you want to have an Afghanistan, or maybe, I don't know, Kargil in Balochistan in England, because they are completely unaware of what Islamic family law is and how uniquely the Sharia law and the family law will liberate those who have that mentality, that sort of understanding in regards to the Islamic law, right? That sort of, cultural and tribal understanding, and taking those tribal and cultural values as something as Islamic. For example, learning English is considered as haram because it is the language of the kuffar. This is the law in Afghanistan, masalan, for example, I am saying that. Or this has been known in some of the zones, areas of, underdeveloped countries. Now, obviously, this is the law. Is it Islamic to really say that? It is the language of the kufr, so therefore you should not really learn this language. You should not really teach our children. I don't know. Where does this come from? Now, this is taken as Islamic. Now, when this is taken as Islamic in this example, and they come to the West with this mentality and with this understanding, whether this be this understanding, whether this be the understanding of the family law, for example, beating wife, well, it is a predominant understanding of the West and of Muslims, leave aside the West, that the man can beat his wife and he has the right to beat. So he abuses his wife, he beats his wife, for example, on the basis that Quran have given this right to him, and because Islam really allows him to do so. Now, this understanding, he comes in the West, right? And he carries on abusing his wife, right? He carries on abusing his wife in the West as well. And the wife, bichare, poor girl, she suffers and she does not speak against this because she is also a Muslimah, and she also thinks that as this is the practice in their tribe, in their culture, in some place in the Middle East or some place in, Turkmenistan or somewhere, right? And it's considered to be Islamic as well. The mullah also says the same thing. Now, when they are in the West here, the immigrants, they carry on this same act to abuse their wife, and they don't speak out against. Now, if we have that Sharia code, if you have that family law system, obviously, this person will be persecuted. This is against Islamic ethos, against Islamic law, Islamic principles, that one really abuses his wife. Like, for example, when we are dealing with rights of women, now when we look at in regards to the rights of women, we find that even if there be a psychological abuse, it's considered to be violation against the duty of the husband, ill treatment of a wife. Remembering Allah's order in the Quran that it is a man's duty to treat his wife well. Imam Ali's comment regarding women being flowers and not warriors. It is unbelievable to find Muslim men who disregard the above and treat their wives in an outrageous and disgraceful manner. Psychological abuse is not allowed, to the wife. We have this saying in the Quran, they say that Ar-Rijal Qawwamuna ala Nisa, that man is considered to be having the authority over women. Now, as the man have an authority, so he does whatever he wants. Where did this concept come from? Have you really understood what does it really mean by Ar-Rijal Qawwamuna ala Nisa? Ar-Rijal Qawwamuna ala Nisa means that the man have the authority to provide the ground for their women to really reach Kamal, to really reach perfection, to really educate themselves, to really increase their knowledge, increase in their humanity, increase in their understanding. That is Qawwamuna ala Nisa. That's what it means. Because naturally it is the man who is able to provide that sense of security to his woman, to his wife. It is not the woman who will be protecting the wife, protecting the husband. It will be the man who will be protecting. So this qawwamun, this authority means that he authoritatively provides that ground. He authoritatively protects his wife from insecurities, from any sort of abuse being carried out on her from others. That's what ar-rijal qawwamun ala nisa means. Ar-rijal qawwamun ala nisa means that I am the man, I have the authority, I will say or I will do whatever I want. This is silly. This is an ignorant understanding of this immaculate verse of the Quran, that ar-rijal qawwamuna ala nisa, which means that okay, man have authority, he can do whatever he wants. You know, this is really strange. Now, as we are talking about, so therefore, if that Islamic Sharia law, Islamic family law is understood by our communities, by our men and women, it will resolve many of the problems, many of the issues that unfortunately our Muslim communities are facing today, whether they be in the East or the West, right? Whether they be in the East or the West. See, family law, as we are talking about, it's not just, you know, related to, for example, issues that are, you know, dealing with divorce and, you know, husband and wife and few fights and feudal stuff like that. No. It even extends to heritage, you know, how the heritage is distributed, what are the right means and ways of these heritage to be distributed. It also extends to the wills, for example, how the will should be written, you know, how is the proper way of writing a will. It even extends to the fact that one looks into family planning, one looks into what is mahram and na-mahram and hijab, and you know, all of these things, they come under the family law. So now when you have a court where is known as to be the Sharia court, and it tends to really promote these true values, and as we have said earlier, that many of the Islamic law is quite contextual, and as it being contextual, it provides us with a space in which we could adapt to the if you want to call the secular law, or if you want to call the norm of the intellectuals, you know, the norm of the intellectuals, the norm of those who are you know, the share, the mutasharre, for example, which can be I would not use the word influence, but I would use the word, for example, which can be which can consider the norms of the intellectuals, for instance, right? Okay. Now, as we were discussing the issue in regards to child custody, if you may recall, in our last session, in our last sort of program, we discussed child custody. And we tend to provide you with sort of like different schools of thought as well while we are discussing. Now, it is very clear that the health and safety of the child and the state of the custodian should be that she or he is not detrimental to the progress and development of the child. So the value or the importance here is the child. It is not the issue of that, you know, because he's the father, illa billah, no matter what, you know, the child should be with the father. No. as we said, we made a differentiation in the very beginning of our program when we started discussing the custodianship, and that was that there's a difference between guardianship and custodianship. Guardianship, which means wilaya, which the father have. Now even this wilaya aspect, unfortunately, we tend to abuse that. I'm the father and I have the wilaya over my children, and I will do whatever I desire or whatever I want. Apparently, it seems Zahiran that Ayatollah Sistani says that in the case of wilaya for marriage, for instance, the father have the wilaya over the girl, and if the father is unnecessary without any reason delaying the marriage of the daughter on the basis of personal desires, on the basis of personal understanding of certain things, and not considering the benefit, not considering the value for the daughter, then the father will lose the wilayat on her. In marriage, this is particularly, it's very important. For example, father says that, oh no, I want to make istikhara, oh I want to make istikhara, and he is only considering himself rather than the daughter, and he is not paying attention to, without any given reason, that this proposal is detrimental, is not good for the daughter, without having valid reasons, then obviously he will lose the wilaya, right? So even when it comes to wilaya in the Islamic family law, we unfortunately tend to have very practical and intellectual understanding of this, right? But unfortunately it's abuse. That's it. The father says no, and that's end of the game, right? Yes, it is true, if the father says no in the case of marriage for a daughter who is not independent, for a daughter who have never got married before, for a daughter who depends upon the wali, upon the father who is the wali, then the father makes the decision. The father consent, particularly in marriage, is very important. He has to give the consent of that. But if the daughter is independent, and if the father is selfish and is not really not really, how shall I say, making a decision in the favor, in the benefit of the daughter, then you will have these issues. Anyway, now going back onto the custodianship, as we were talking about, we discussed the age when the custodianship will be nullified or terminated. Is the Imamiya scholars was that the duration of custody for a boy was 2 years and a girl was 7 years. However, contemporary Imamiya scholars or Jafaris consider the age for termination of custody for both boys and girls as 7 years. Till 7 years, the boy and a girl must be with the custodian. And as we said, naturally the custodianship belongs to the mother. The custodianship belongs to the mother in the first place, just like how law of heritage goes. Right? If there be other issues, then it goes to the father, because it is the mother who will be taking care of the children, and the way the mother takes care of the children, no one can, right? So it belongs to the father, it belongs to the mother, custodianship. Now in Malikis, consider the period of custody for a boy extends to the birth up to the bulugh, puberty, and then after that he decides. And for a girl until she marries. This is a Maliki thought. Shafi'is maintain that there is no defined period of custody, and that the child should remain with her or his mother until able to choose which parent they wish to live with. There's no sort of like that. Now, fees of custody, we also mentioned, is a reminder that if there be a volunteer who will do the custody of a child for free, then the mother have no right to take any money for the custodianship, and she will lose the custodianship to this individual who is willing to take care of the child for free. You might be saying that why is it important to really discuss that? Well, in the court of law, for example, if the mother have the right of custodianship, and then the lawyer inquires that is she gonna take money, or if she claims the money for the custodianship, for example, yes, one might say that, oh, which mother will do that, for example. We are not talking about that. We are talking about law here. We don't consider emotions here. We are looking into the adl. We are looking in from an intellectual point of view. For example, mother can claim for the milk, that she feeds to the children, right? She can have the milk money, right? Because the father is the one who is supposed to really provide the maintenance and all that, right? We are talking about the law here. Now, what will happen here is that when the mother wants to claim the custodianship, and this is the way how she will claim. Maybe the child have inherited some property from the father or grandfather or whatever, or maybe somebody have given him. As the child have inherited that money and the child is not baligh yet, the mother says that till he becomes baligh, every month this is the money that she is claiming from the custodianship, and he should, or the wali of that child should pay her, right? So possibility there, she will go to the court and claim it. Now here is the father. The father will say that, okay, as the mother is claiming for a custodianship, I have my sister, or I have my mother, or I have hired someone, for example. I have somebody, who is willing to take care of my child of custodianship without any fees. Without any fees. So as you have a person already volunteering to take care of without money, then the right of custodianship will be transferred from the mother. That possibility is there. However, in regards to the Hanbali and the Shafi'i, they maintain that the cost of the custody must come from the child's own assets. For example, the Imami maintained that the payment must be for breastfeeding and not for custody itself. However, Ayatollah Khouyi said that a mother is entitled to receive payment for her services unless she is prepared to undertake such work without payment, or, here it is, if someone else is prepared to undertake those duties free of charge. Malikis maintain that a female custodian is not entitled to any payment whatever for service that are her duty to undertake. So Maliki says that she doesn't really need. Now it's therefore in regards to that custodianship and being paid, that is the understanding of the Islamic family law. Now all of these things are quite important if our community know this. If there be, God forbid, any ikhtilaf, any divorce, we tend to see that, oh, husband is ar-rijal qawamun an-nisa, father is it, and therefore the children belongs to the father. The child, if he is baby and he is still being breastfed by the mother till 2 years, he will be or she will be with the mother, but after that is the father. The children belongs to the father. Baba, no, look at that, read it, look into the intricacies of the law, right? Who it belongs to. No, father have wilayat. I mean, to the extent that if father becomes the custodian of the children, if it's transferred to the father because of some reason that is seen to be detrimental to the children, even the father cannot, or for whatever reason, even the father cannot take the child to a place, to a foreign place, which is not the birthplace of the mother. Traveling of a child. And she can go to the court, Islamic court, and complain against the husband, the divorced husband, that my children were taken away without my consent, and he could be fined or he could lose the custodianship. So therefore, if Muslims pay attention to these things, then things will be well taken care of, because we have a different understanding of Islam, and we try to implement that understanding in our communities, in our families, without being aware of the fact of what is true understanding of these of the law, right? Now, moving on further, a custodianship could be surrendered as well. The mother comes and says, I can't, I'm sorry. That's fine. She has that ikhtiyar to do so. She can surrender it. A female, if she pleases to give away, give. It's not obligatory on her, just like how it is obligatory on the husband to maintain the nafaqah, maintenance, to provide. It is wajib upon the father to provide maintenance to the children. Now, if she surrenders the custodianship, the father have to step in and have to find a custodian for that child, right? Or provide, someone with some sort of amount of money to take care of the children. Now, the other things that we need to discuss here is the maintenance. And I think we have pointed out to this earlier, but if we haven't, I will just quickly go through the maintenance of the wife. As we talked about nafaqah, it belongs upon the husband, so therefore the maintenance should be paid to a wife in cash, and her being provided with everything that she requires. All jurists agree that it is the husband's prerogative to fulfill his duty in the manner most convenient to him. He can give some pocket money, he can give some cash, he can give some, maintenance in a way, buying the ticket for her trip. It all belongs to the law of maintenance. If the wife goes on a trip every summer at the house of her father, the husband must maintain that. He has to provide with the ticket to the trip every summer for the wife, and also he must provide with the shopping, whatever. The husband must provide the cost of her maintenance, in the sense that she goes out to the salon to make her hair, for makeup and all that. It is the husband, right, and he must provide that. Now, obviously, now she goes for a salon to dress herself, to do makeup, and then to go commit a sin, for example, in the na-mahram programs and stuff like that. Then once again this is raised. See, it is very technical. It is very technical with, okay, now maintenance is look at this scenario. Maintenance is it must be provided by the husband. The salon bill is £100. Masalana, for example, she goes there and she colors her hair and she does makeup, right? Now she is a muhajjabe, she wears hijab, right? She do this zinat, or this sort of maintenance of her body and hygiene for her health, and also for the husband. The husband must provide that, right? Understood, clear, no problem, no argument, tamam shud, finish. Now, for example, if she goes there, £100 bill, and she's not muhajjaba, right? She wants to go to a mahfil where there is na mahram as well, but she has done her hair, she has done her makeup. Now, it is maintenance, it's hygiene and all that. Now the husband will raise a point. The husband will say that, okay, because she is doing this in order to go to a na-mahram or a non-mahram mahfil, for example, or a music party or whatever, the husband will say, I'm not going to pay for this. Now she raises this issue with the court because he has the right to pay. Now the husband says that, okay, no, yes, I will pay, but if this is promoting fisq and fujur, it is promoting that. So because of this reason, I don't want to pay. Well, now the Qazi will look at it. The Qazi will look at it from the point of view, essentially, regardless of whether that be fisq or fujur, right? Regardless of that, that is something else. We are not discussing that. The Qazi will say that as essentially, it is the right of the wife to claim the maintenance from the husband. Yes or no? Yes, it is. Now, you are talking about is fisq or fujur, that is discussed later on. That is discussed later on. That is the Qazi will discern that by keeping the witnesses, all of these cases will be presented and then he will decide, right? For example, let me give you this another example, right? The wife inherits money from the father, okay? She gets this warase, some money from the father. Now, Hajj comes. Hajj is wajib upon the wife. Now, as Hajj is wajib upon the wife, now because she has the money to go, right, it becomes wajib, is mustati, she becomes mustati, now Hajj is wajib. Now, going outside the house requires the permission of the husband, okay? A woman cannot leave the house without the permission of the husband. That is very clear. We discussed that earlier. That is the right of the husband now. Now, obviously, it has been overwhelmed and how it is understood. It's not like that. Muslims, every time wife go out of the house, she calls me and tells me, I want to go out, I want to go out. It's not like that. Culturally speaking, it is considered the norm. But I'm just trying to point out to the sensitivity of the law, right? And then we'll end with that. Now, the wife, because of the money that she has inherited from the father, Hajj have become wajib on her. Now, going out of the house in order to do Hajj requires the permission of the husband because she has to go outside the house, right? Now, as she goes for the Hajj, because it has become wajib on her, but she has left the house without the permission of the husband. As she has left the house without the permission of the husband for 20 days, the husband says that I'm not going to pay for your maintenance for 20 days. I will not pay for your food. I will not pay for your shopping. I will not pay for your... Okay, because you have crossed the boundary of the law. You have broken the law. As you have broken the law, I will not pay for that. But from other side, it is wajib on her to go for Hajj as well. From one side, she cannot leave the house without the permission of the husband as well. What should happen? So these are the very, when it comes to the law and when it comes to the court, these things are discussed, right? The wife leaves the house because the house is not the roof which the husband is providing is not of the same, caliber, of the same comfort that she was in the house of the father. The husband must provide a house with the same standard, with the same comfort of the father. That is the right of the wife. Now she gets married and all of a sudden the fight happens and she leaves the house because she says that this house is not the same, caliber or level of my father. Okay, she leaves. On an Islamic principle or law, she leaves. Now, as she leaves the house and she's been living in the house of the father for 1 month, at the end of the month, she sends a bill to the husband that this is what my expenditure was, this was my maintenance, you have to pay for me. The husband will say, well, I'm sorry, why shall I pay? Because you have left the house. Then she goes to the court to claim it. Yes, I have left the house on an Islamic principle, and you have the right to pay for the maintenance, right? So as long as you don't buy a good house for me, and I will be sending every month a bill to you to pay for me. And if you don't pay, I will send the police to your house if it is an Islamic state. If it is an Islamic country, that will happen, right? And then he will be persecuted, poor fellow, right? So obviously, there is a lot of things that is very beautiful and unique that is required by us to really educate, to look into that how Islam have come in order to provide justice to the communities, right? In order to have that system by which one cannot abuse each other. The wife cannot abuse the husband and the husband cannot abuse the wife. Unfortunately, we see that sometimes in certain society, the wife abuses the husband. She puts the meher, for example, in Iran it's happening, she put the meher as 50,000, 50, 100, 5,000 gold coins as a meher. It's a marriage time, the husband, happy, merry, signs the contract, is 5,000, and who pays the meher, we'll see. Now divorce takes place, she goes to the court and says the husband must pay 5,000 gold coins to me as a meher, he has to pay it. The police knocks the door of the husband and said, give 5,000 gold coins, she's claiming her meher. He has to pay. Otherwise, what do? You put you in a prison. And many today, if you go and research, in Iran, many of the husbands are in the prison. Why are they in prison? Because they haven't paid the meher. They cannot go outside the country. It's stamped in the immigration. When the husband wants to leave the country, he'll look at the passport and say, okay, your name, you have to do the payment of your meher before you leave the country. Because if you leave, you will not come back. It's abuse, right? So now there's a way to really come out of these abuse through the Islamic point of view as well. From one side, you will see that it's an Islamic law to have meher, but at the same time, there's another law that comes and overrides this in order that there be no abuse in the society, in order that there be adalat. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you next week again. Goodbye from Question Time. Hidayat. Good night.